What? Oh my god, I did it again. And again. No, okay. Last week I went to the wrong screen once and then got to the right one. This time I just did it two incorrect screens in a row. Anyway, we are here
Killing me, Smalls.
holding it together, barely. Not like anything has been going on to keep our minds distracted or elsewhere, but
Democracy's still alive.
still alive, I guess.
Something like that.
And yeah. Oh, my boys. My boys. Cutie Pie P-chan in the chat. My lady is here. It is Tuesday, and it is a day for talking. You may call it Talk Tuesday.
Tuesdays of talking.
That's what I call it anyway. I am joined once again by my good friend Josh Koval here, still loading pod, and he is still loading. When is that gonna load?
Can't stop, won't stop, baby. So much loading. I lost a joke. I had a joke lined up and then just fell out.
Well, that's okay. That's kind of where we're at in this space. I'm weak. No, I don't think you're weak. I think you're quite the opposite. Anyway, we can just briefly. We're all, everything sucks right now. It is terrible. We talked about it off mic. All that I need to say is I hope you are taking care of yourself, you, Josh, and you, General, you. Take care of yourselves. Just do whatever you need to do to get through today, much less the next 4 years, and go to therapy. That's what I've been doing. I had two unrelated to this. I had two therapy appointments the Wednesday, I think it was Thursday after. I think it was Wednesday. It was immediately after finding out, just twice in a row. Just went to one, hung out in the cafe for about an hour or two, and then went to the other one. So do what you got to do.
Got to do what you got to do. I think after everything that happened, I like that day at work, I just didn't talk to anyone. Most of the people at my work are pretty cool. Like, our work's pretty, like, they're pretty open. We've had people, transition while working there, and the company is very accepting of their pronouns and stuff. So like the work environment's overall pretty receptive. But everyone in the office was just like a zombie that day. The vast majority of the people. There's a handful of dumpers. I'm just gonna call it that because it rhymes, and I don't feel like uttering the word.
Yeah.
But it only so much you can do right now.
Yeah, I remember going to work last time in 2016. It was like a gray, dreary day, and just like everybody walking down the street that I walked past was just so downtrodden. I didn't leave the house it must have, my therapy must have been the next day, because I don't think we left the house that day. We found out, we cried, particularly for people. I think what I said was like, I'm just feeling so much for the hate and violence that is already coming and is more justified in happening towards people that need protecting the most. Yeah. And it just hurts.
See, I had the opposite reaction last time back in 2016. I was pissed. And so I woke up at I randomly woke up. It was like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I looked at my phone, saw the results. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I was like, literally, I wasn't married yet, so I'm just laying in the bed, just going like, like I'm just like angry. And I drove into work at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and I just did a shitload of overtime. I was just so mad. I'm just processing cases. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
God damn it.
You're just angrily just like typing like
Josh, what's wrong with you? Just losing my shit.
Yeah.
But yeah. So it's a bizarre combination of everyone's people are being too hyperbolic about it and not hyperbolic enough. Like it's simultaneous, like probably going to be one of the worst things to happen to our country. And at the same time, the optimist in me is just like, well, maybe it's just that maybe everyone's so inept it's not going to be that bad.
Hey,
I
that's
I have
fair.
no idea. I have no idea. I'm not going to make any predictions, but
Yeah.
we can move on. It's just people don't need I shouldn't say that. There's a lot of stuff. I don't know what people need. I'm not going to make anything. All I can say right now is I have grieved over it. My wife and I have grieved over it. We don't know what's going to come in the next 4 years, and just got to keep pushing through. Like the I can at least say this: the last thing that you want to do is completely lose hope, because apathy is how this shit gets worse.
Yes, yes. And I'm still holding that feeling of I want to give up. I'm not going to. I never will, but I
Oh,
want
it's a
to.
valid feeling.
God, I want to so bad.
It's a super valid feeling.
But like I say, and like I see on signs all around the city right now, politicians are temporary. Wu-Tang is forever.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
Anyway, we can segue out with that. Aside
Yeah.
from, just barely existing, how was your week?
Honestly, it was better than I was expecting. Just like, listen, I'm not trying to take anything away from all the stuff. I know a lot of people are hurting, so this is a very privileged side of it coming from this, but I had a pretty okay week. Like, it could have been, the first couple of days were really rough, obviously, but I've been editing podcasts. I started really working my way through, and Andrew, you will appreciate this. My patrons voted. I put out a Patreon poll, a quarterly Patreon poll, and for a bunch of PS4 games. And the
Ooh,
title was PS4 more like PS more. And it's
ooh.
awful. And this game
Oh,
got
nice.
voted.
Okay, sick. I've never
Not
played that.
in
I'm
frame.
I'm not ready. I'm not ready to cry.
I'm not quite sure. I am a little nervous for how this is going to end. I will say this is one of the most poorly programmed games I've played on the
Oh
PS4.
no.
The gameplay is really inventive, and it's better. Like, I tried it out a while ago and I enjoyed it well enough, but I lost interest. I'm still losing interest in this, but I don't consider that a flaw of the game. It's just, my own personal tastes. I will say, because I have to do an episode on it, so I don't want to go too far into it.
Fair.
The biggest flaw with this game is there is, like, the technical aspects. There's lots of times where this game just chugs, like,
Really?
and the camera is fucking awful. Um, there's
Well,
moments. So
Eco
the
and Shadow
camera,
of the Colossus don't have the best cameras.
yeah, but Shadow of the Colossus, at least, like, you can write it off as PS2 jank,
Yeah.
and Eco as PS2 jank, because it was still, like, it was the second generation of 3D hardware, so they were figuring out more things about, like, camera angles and stuff like that. And for the most part, like, Shadow, you could get away with it because you were fighting in big open spaces, so the camera wasn't a huge issue. For at least for me, like,
Yeah.
it was when it was in small narrow spaces, and this game is nothing but small, cramped, narrow spaces.
That's so
So
weird.
I apologize. I have some type of cold or something.
Well,
So
cover your mouth. I'm gonna get sick.
right through the microphone, baby. You
Oh.
take that spit.
Oh, that one was wet. Oh, hey.
Yeah.
Boom.
Swapping spit, baby. No,
We're swapping spit here on the experience point.
at the expit. No, that didn't work. That pun didn't work. Anyway, so the biggest issue I have with it is the camera, because, like, there'll be moments where you're riding Trico, and which is like the weird cat bird mouse eared thing.
Yeah. Baby Griffin.
It's really cool. Yeah, it's like a griffin, but I love the design of it. It's really cool. But, like, there'll be times. There was one time where I was riding on top of him, and he went into, like, a really narrow passage, and because the camera stops on walls, like, like, sometimes, like,
Oh.
they program it so the camera will go past the wall, but you can still see through it, that kind of thing. They don't do that in this. It's like it's bound by the wall.
Yeah.
And what happened?
So it's like your
was-
eyes are like against the wall.
It was just black. I
Ah.
couldn't fucking see anything. And so then and Trico wasn't moving, and so then you're having to crawl around him blindly to
Yeah.
get to a spot where the camera will allow you to see outside. It was awful. So yeah, I'm about I'm over halfway through the game now. So I'm working my way through that.
And you
it's
just
been
started
fine.
it?
No, I think I started it last week. I would say. I
That's
think
still
I started
pretty.
it. Yeah, it's only a 13-hour game.
Okay.
Like it's pretty short.
Yeah, it's like
but
about what Shadow of the Colossus was, and I forget how long it took me to beat Eco, but I remember getting stuck in that.
Eco's pretty short actually, but I loved Eco. Man.
Yeah.
Like I was joking around with you. Like I didn't beat it when we did our episode on it.
Right.
Like 4 years ago now.
Jeez.
Yeah, remember it was summer of 2020. It was the summer of PS2, which was 2020. And we recorded that sometime in the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was 4 years ago now at this point.
Wow.
But I then got asked to guest on a different show. I want to say, 2 years ago, and I finally played through the whole thing and beat it for that. I'm like, man, I should have done this for my own show. God damn it. I was so mad at myself.
Nice.
So that was before when we did it though. I was much less diligent with making sure I beat all the games that I'm covering. I was like, I just got to get an idea of it.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, that is not what I like at all. It has to be like a full thing. And 1 second. All right, sorry. My wife is out tonight, so I'm watching the kid, which she's asleep. It's fine, but her monitor suddenly started lighting up, so I couldn't tell if she was like crying or not. But she's good.
Word.
She might just be talking in her sleep.
Nice.
And she's still not fucking pooping.
No. What, really? Like to be defiant?
It's been like, oh, she just it's not in like a defiant way, like I'm not gonna do it, just like she doesn't like to, so she doesn't, and then she'll hold it in for 3 days and then wonder why it hurts when it finally forces its way out.
Damn, for 3 days.
Oh, she went 6 days was the longest in recent memory.
Oh my god, I would implode. My bowels would be like that of a dying star. It would be like what Nibbler poops out in Futurama.
I keep telling her, like, hey, if you poop every day, then it doesn't hurt. But if you hold it in, that's when it starts to hurt.
Right.
And she's 3, and it doesn't fucking, the logic does not mean a goddamn thing to her.
Yeah, that's fair.
Oh, it's annoying. So, anyway, but so yeah, that's what I've been playing. I have a couple other things, obviously, that I've experienced, but we can go back and forth. What have you been up to, sir?
Okay, I feel like it's somewhat in the same kind of vein as that. I just realized I have to wrong side. Nope, right side, wrong direction. I have to get rid of that little graphic up there because I am now the proud owner of a PlayStation 5, a Sony PlayStation 5 Slim.
You saved up for one?
Well, one of the cool things about living with a partner is that you can split costs of things. Oh. She has awoken. She has arisen.
No. Oh. Yeah, hold on. I'll be right back. All right?
Okay.
I will be right back. Sorry.
No worries.
Hush.
I will switch to just me for a second. Take up all the space now. I have my whole couch here. Yeah. Well, I'll leave you on that cliffhanger, everyone. How are you doing? Everyone in the chat, give me a thumbs up, a thumbs down, or a random emoji of your choice depicting your mood. Because I'm at like a 1. No, that's not true. I would say 1 to 10. I'm probably at a 4. Yeah. Not awful. Not amazing. Just here. Just here. Me and my children. My stuffed animal children. And those will be the only children that I will have. Speaking of, if you're wondering, my balls are healing up nicely. Haven't ripped any of the stitches out yet, I don't think. And yeah, who doesn't want that in their mind? What a visual. Here's an idea. I have a red drink here. If I put it in front of the purple light, in front of the blue light, will it turn purple? Nope, it just turns blue. I don't know what I was expecting. I actually can't really. If this was water, it would still turn that color. This one's a little too hot. There we go. You can just barely get the light in there. There we go. Well, it's just me alone on this dark internet. One time, not at band camp, when I worked at GameStop, we had a guy come in, and we called him Squirrely. He would come in pretty much every day, and we called him that because he was that. He was kind of shifty eyes, and he was kind of your typical, maybe slightly atypical. He would have a fedora on if he owned one, kind of a milady type of guy. And he would just go from demo disc to demo disc and just play. Like, he played the 360, then the PS3. That tells you how long ago it's been. Then he would come around and do the Wii on his way out. He would never talk to anyone, except for when he would pre-order video games. He would pre-order every game. Like, every game that came out, he'd pre-order it. Like, maybe he thought that we were going to run out, but then he would never pick them up. Or if he would pick up, like, the weirdest, like...
Okay, I am back.
Oh, welcome. Nope, I did the wrong thing again. There you are.
There we go.
Everything kosher?
I have no idea. I think she's holding in the poo, and she's feeling like she has to let it out, but she's refusing to again.
Gotcha.
And like, she's so tired that like trying to force her to poo, unless it's like ready to just like pop out, is going to be nothing but scream crying.
Damn. For both of you, I'm sure.
Last time she did this, I lost my cool pretty bad. I didn't like... I had to leave the room a handful of times because she refused to poop. She just and it was like a full day of like she pooped in her underwear 4 times, like not full on, but like little bits. And we keep telling her, like, Felicity, I keep
damn it
using her name. Yeah, too late now. I keep telling her, I'm like, you have to, like, this is telling me you have to go. Like, you can't pretend that you're not. Like, it's coming out and you're not letting it out. Just let it out. And it was just a no-go.
That's
no
wild.
matter what. I'm getting mad thinking about it again, where it's just like, this is so fucking obvious. Just push the fucking poop out.
Right. I have trouble as an adult. Like, when I gotta go, you gotta go. Like, I can't even imagine not letting it.
You just don't. You will never understand the rage. You won't understand anger until you deal with a toddler who's like, no, I don't have to poop, while they're pooping their underwear.
Yeah.
And it's like, fucking push it out. It's not that hard.
That's why my balls hurt right now.
I gave you a shitload of Miralax. It should just be water.
Oh my god! It should just be like sprinkler. Like, just. Oh god.
Anyway,
at this point,
for the gross thing.
You just need to like pick her up and just kind of squeeze her out like a tube of toothpaste.
No.
I saw it in the cartoon. It's fine.
You got a PS5.
Anyway, I got a GD PS5. I was saying, so yes, without going super into it, we had a little bit more money than we thought we were going to have. And so one of the cool things about living with a partner, as you know, you get to split expenses. So suddenly $250 was a lot more doable than $500. So, yeah, I got the PS5, and relating to what you have been playing at Last Guardian, we beat Astro's Playroom, which is the greatest free game I've ever played in my goddamn life. Good. It's so good.
I really want to get the full length game that just came out earlier this year.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait. Obviously, I don't have quite the money to buy all the games that I want to, but I did buy one, which I'll talk about after this. I have never. It may be a bit soon to say this, but there is a solid chance that the DualSense is my favorite controller of all time.
It's a great controller.
It feels good, like just in general, it feels good. But then all of the features, like I get it that Astro's Playroom is just a commercial for the system that you already have, and like a very, very, very glorified tech demo. I should
it's like it that does a disservice to the game. Like it is a full on game. It's not just a tech demo.
Yeah. That's why I was trying to say very, very glorified, but they do kind of lay it on a little bit thick. But it's the best. It's one of the best video games I've played in recent memory. Like I couldn't even tell you. Like Police and I were sitting here playing it, and we were just smiling ear to ear. We just kept being like, like, oh my god, oh, that's so cool. Oh, the adaptive triggers and like the rumble of the trigger, the resistance, the touchscreen to like zip up the different suits, like the tactile feel. As somebody with like tactile, I guess, sensitivity, like hypersensitivity, I was like, oh my god, this is the coolest thing I've ever played, or not ever, but like in a really long time. And just seeing like it was, we were joking, like, we would die and be like, and we're so used to games where it's like, I just lost like 15 minutes of progress. But this game, it's like there's very little stakes. It's not difficult. It's challenging enough that like you might slip up and die, but then when you do, you're back like 10 feet and you're like, oh, I just do that again. I didn't lose any of the coins. I didn't Dark Souls it. I didn't go down to half health. Not that there is health, because you die in one hit for everything, but there's no stakes and you're just jumping around, and it's like a celebration of like all PlayStation games. And I was laughing. I was like so happy that I was laughing out loud and just being like, oh my god, like this is a video game. Like it's one of the best platformers I've ever played. It's so inventive. There's so many little details, like little X, circles, square, and triangles everywhere. I should say cross. Technically, the X is not an X; it's cross. Yeah. Little like the Easter eggs of all the little like the camera guys like shooting the games that are happening. Like I had so much fun trying to be like, oh, is that I think that's Monster Hunter. Oh, is that Uncharted? Oh, that's Devil May Cry. I loved the one with the Dante robot that was just keeping the the enemy robot in the air constantly with the guns like you can in the first Devil May Cry. And I was like, oh my god. I know you do. But it's
so overrated.
They get better. And if you played it when it first came out, I think it would be different. Going back to it is definitely really rough. It's rough around the edges.
Sorry, but I didn't mean to derail you.
No, you're fine.
Continue.
I love it. It was exactly what I need. So obviously the election, obviously the vasectomy, I was like, I'm not going to be moving much for a while. I need to have something to just go into. I beat Red Dead Redemption 2, which is also...
What did you think of that?
I liked it a lot. I think I liked the first one more.
See, I like the second one a lot more.
In terms of, I like playing the second one more, but I think I like the story of the first one a little bit more.
Really, I preferred the story of the second one. I everything about the first one, it was fine, but I think also, did you play the first one when it came out?
Yeah.
See, I didn't. I played.
Okay.
I played it. Early 2020 is when I played it.
Okay.
I played it early. I finished the first game, I want to say late 2019, early 2020 for the first time.
Okay.
And by then, there have been tons of other games that did story beats like that game did. Um, and so when I played it and I beat it, I was like, I was just kind of like underwhelmed in a weird sense.
Hmm.
Versus the second one felt a lot more climactic.
So you played it after you played the second one?
No, no, no. I played the first one
Oh, okay.
first.
Okay.
Yeah, I played the first one first, and the second one. It's funny. The second game has gone. When I first started playing it, because I've been vocal. I'm not always a huge fan of Rockstar.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember back when we first met, I was saying how I'm not a fan of open world games. Turns out I am. I
Yeah.
just don't like Rockstar open world games,
Okay.
with the exception of Red Dead Redemption, because those actually feel warranted. They feel
Yeah.
like it. Like there's a purpose. Oh Jesus! Sorry, hold on.
Uh-oh.
So, what's she doing? Sorry. Yeah. All right. I'll be right back. Sorry.
Okay, it's fine.
Jesus Christ! You just fucking push the poo out. I'll be right back.
Okay. All right, it's just me again. I'll continue the story that I was telling a little bit ago. I hope your memory's good. Anyway, so Squirrely would just come in and pre-order the weirdest games of all. I swear he would find like Hot Wheels Stunt Track Racer for like the Wii, and he would pre-order it and never pick it up. Or just some, like, I think he pre-ordered One Chanbara for the Xbox 360, which, you know, is basically softcore porn disguised as an action game. And I remember one time he was a little bit off, but there was a time where he came in, and I will never forget this. He was playing a demo disc. He was playing, I think it was New Super Mario Brothers for the Wii, and he got a phone call, and he was like, "Hello? What? No! 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 No, I'm gonna. I want to go by myself. I want to go by myself." And he's like trying to keep it down. Oh, excuse me. And the story then just became. Oh, thank you, love. Making me feel like I'm not a crazy person talking to myself. It just became like a legend around the office. We just got office around the store. Every time we would be like, somebody would be leaving like to get their lunch or go out for a lunch break. They'd be like, "Oh, you going to get lunch?" You're like, "Oh, you want me to go with you?" And we'd always be like, "No, I want to go by myself." And it was like, is he talking to his mom? Like, and this guy was older than us. I mean, I was like in my early 20s. I think I was 21, 20 maybe. And he was like 30. And I was like, I really hope he's not talking to his mom. And I hope he's not talking to his mom like that. He's like, shut up. I'm going to go by myself. It was just epitome, probably homeschooled, introverted, nerdy guy. Where did Josh go? Oh, he's his kiddo is having some poop issues. So he is going to handle that. It's just him tonight. Wifey is out. So sometimes I just have to go to my single camera view and just talk to myself like a crazy person. I know. So I've told what do you like, what are you into? I've told that story. I don't know if I have enough time to tell it again. I'm sure Josh is going to be back soon. Oh, there was Boss. Okay. Oh, there he is. Perfect timing. I was just telling old GameStop stories.
Freaking, she's okay. I think what it wasn't the poo that I keep thinking it's gonna be. She's been having a nasty cough. So now what I did is I normally keep the volume if I have to watch the monitor while I'm doing something. Mm-hmm. I keep the volume off so that way I can, you don't hear it over the mic. But I think I'm gonna have to unfortunately keep the monitor on because Yeah, this poor kiddo's got a cough. That's what it is.
Oh,
That might have been why she was like crying so before.
yeah. Well, I hope she feels better. I see it wearing on you.
It is very. She's hasn't really had any issues sleeping for a little while. It's just tonight. It seems like it's just one of those nights.
Yeah, it's just one of those days when you don't want to take a shit.
Just like it's been like 3 days.
Yeah.
She just popped, and then she just popped her head up. I'll see what she's doing. Yeah. Okay, I need to go get her.
Okay.
Hold on.
No worries. And we're back to just me. So, there was a guy. There was a guy named. Actually, funnily enough, his name was Josh too. He worked next door at a California tortilla. If you've ever eaten at those, they're so freaking good. His name was Josh, but we called him Boss Guy because he called everybody boss. And he was like, he would always come in and be like, "Yeah, what's going on, boss? You know, hey, how's it going, boss? You know, yo, that's so boss. That game's so boss." And we just called him Boss Guy. And one time, he was always just so like, "Yo, what's going on, boss? Oh yeah." We had these like God of War 3 had just come out, and I had this GameStop like obviously GameStop branded polo shirt with a God of War logo on the back, and he was like, I went to go get my lunch there, and he was like, "Yo, boss, I'd love to. Yo, can I buy that shirt from you?" And I was like, I mean, he's like, "I love God of War, dude, boss." And I was like, I mean, sure. I mean, I'll just give it to you. Like, we have a million of them. And then that was a mistake because then I think he thought that we were blood brothers. So he would never leave me alone after that. And one time I went over there to get lunch, and I just saw him just like bopping around. Like I was seated, and there was like a the blood brothers. Yeah. And there's like a counter, not like a counter, but one of those like little dividers. And I just saw him like bop around and like trying to talk to the girls that he worked with and stuff. And then he like poked his head up and he was like, "Yo, boss." And I was like, "I thought that was you and your little animated head." And he was like, "Animated head?" And then another time he came into the GameStop, and he came in, he did one lap around the store, and then he did like a little like shout out, like a little he pointed to the Mario demo, and then like on his way out, like he was just seeing his it's like his boss. Yeah, he was just like on the way out with the utmost like sincerity. And there's another time I saw him taking the trash out out back of Caltor, because we had a shared dumpster, and he like did his little like saunter up with the trash and like toss it in, and then he started like kind of awkwardly like jogging back to the store, and I was like, "Book it," just like, and he was like, "Book it." he pointed at me and was like, "Book it," like that's the thing that we say. I was like, it's so weird. He was trying so hard. He really thought he was the main character, and life just stopped when he left. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, totally. It's like the I won't say who, but someone I used to know. Somebody that I used to know who genuinely thought, I can say it, somebody I used to work for who genuinely thought he was the only person who was alive on the earth, like only person who was real, and that everyone else on the earth was a figment of his imagination. So yeah, real real winners out here between that and Boss Guy and Squirrely. And I was gone by then from GameStop, but there was also a character who came in. His name was Colostomy Guy, because he would always just walk around just holding his like colostomy bag, and I was like, that is so gross. One might call him a special grade narcissist. Oh, Felisa Nicolette Mackey here with the the Jujutsu Kaisen tech. And I only full named you because your full name is on here when I and all of your socials. I felt I've like panicked for a second because I was like, oh my God, has she not said her full name? But you have. Because you're like me, and you're like, if somebody's, my name's just right there. If somebody's going to find my stuff, they're going to find it. If they want to take my identity, they're not going to get much. Well, all you're going to get if you try to take my identity is debt. So, by all means, carry on, my wayward son. And I'm like, I don't want to be known for a username. I want people to like actually know who I am. 100%. Yeah. Thank you, love. I'm glad we're always on the same page. Ermagerd! Werherf burn! Where have I been, Parallax? Welcome to the chat, by the way. I have been here, sitting right here on this couch while my balls have been bleeding. That's basically where I've been. And don't worry, it's not just me talking to myself today. Josh is just stepping out for a quick sec, dealing with some kiddo stuff. But I have been here. I haven't moved a whole lot. I can, move around now. I've been leaving the house and taking walks and stuff. It's nice. And pretty soon, come January, I will be fully sterilized. Wow, he's back right on time. As soon as I started talking about cum.
Baby. Yeah, no, she, so still no bowel movements.
All right.
She was crying because she woke herself up with coughing pretty bad.
Oh.
So I had her sit up, blow her nose. I forgot to give her some nighttime cough medicine, like kids' nighttime cough medicine.
Yeah. AKA the bottle of hooch that I got under the desk.
Yeah, right. And gave her some of that. Hopefully that'll help with the coughs.
Yeah.
And because I think that's what happened was that she woke herself up from it with coughs. And the poor kid, she was like crying. I'm like, what's wrong, sweetie? What happened? She's like, I'm sad. Oh. And I went, why are you sad? And she goes, like, because of me.
Oh, because of me.
Oh. Poor kiddo.
I think she's past bottles Parallax, but yeah, just grinding up the Benadryl and putting it in the sippy cup.
Oh my lord, man! It's
also welcome. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, what's up, buddy? So, all right, so yes, let's keep on going because otherwise, I don't know if she's gonna like interrupt us again.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well,
we were talking.
PS5 played a shitload of Astro's Playroom, and you said you were talking GameStop stories.
Yes, yeah, I was just in between. When you were gone, I was just talking about old GameStop stories and all the weird characters that I had come into that freaking store. But did I ever tell you the "what do you like, what are you into" story?
I don't think so.
Okay, I'll try to do it succinctly because I think I may have told this story on stream before. But we had this guy come in. Did you ever watch Entourage?
No.
Okay, so there's a character on there. His name's Ari Gold. He's like their lawyer. He's like the scummiest, douchiest, Porsche driving, like always on the Bluetooth asshole business guy type character.
Mm-hmm.
And so that guy came into GameStop one time, and he had like this little girl like holding his hand, and she was probably like 6 or 7. And she's like looking around, like just bright eyes and like, unspoilable innocence, and he's just like on his phone, like on his Bluetooth, like, yeah, bro, yeah, so so I think after the merger we're probably gonna have to, we're gonna be up and we're really gonna be seeing some ROI by EOD, and just being a douchebag.
Return on investment.
Yeah. And just he's absolutely a crypto bro now, but this was like 2009. Anyway, he's like his daughter is like pulling on his shirt and is like pointing to something that she sees that was like, she's really excited and she's holding it. It was a DS game, and she's like looking up at him and she's like daddy, look, I want and he's like hey, hang on one second. Yeah, so anyway, I need to have that over TPS reports or whatever, just business douchebag lingo. And then she's like, getting a little bit sad, and then she's kind of like she basically like did a little like she kicked a can on the street, type of, if there was a can, she would have kicked it. They're just kind of like, and he's like, all right, hang on, bro, I gotta go because I gotta get Abigail the stupid video game I promised her. Anyway, bye. And so he like gets off the phone. I was like, oh my god, and of course her name's Abigail, the most like precious little like child name. And he goes, he's like, all right, so like this game that I promised her, by the way. Fuck that guy. Yeah, totally. Like it's such a burden for you to go get your daughter, something that she's been asking for. And he's like, I think she had put the game back and she was just kind of like looking at him, and he like crosses his arms and he's like, oh, okay. So like he's looking at this little, mind you, like a 6-year-old girl, and he's like, all right, so like, what do you like? What are you into? I was
like asking you?
No, to his daughter.
Oh, okay.
He said, "What do you like? What are you into?" To the child, and I was like, first of all, you don't know this. Like, tell me your split custody without telling me your split custody. You don't even know what your kid likes. I mean, that could happen while they're living together, but I just knew, and it was just so. It was like straight out of a movie. Like it was so. I've never seen like such a douchey business bro guy, and it was so. It made me so mad that it was funny. It's funny now. Like, I mean, I guess it was. The story was funny. Her suffering every day with this asshole. Like, I know this poor Abigail, and now every time I hear someone's name who's Abigail, I'm like, oh, I gotta get Abigail the stupid video game I promised her. What do you like? What are you into? Like he was asking one of his bros, like
what do you like?
What kind of wings he likes at the bar. Like what do you like? What are you into? Like what?
That's pretty funny, actually.
Anyway,
I mean, it's not funny, but it's funny.
Yeah. So he was one of my least favorite characters, but one of my most favorite stories to tell. Anyway, I believe we were talking about Red Dead Redemption, and what last thing I'll kind of say about it without spoiling, the turn that happens at the end. I feel like I liked what they did in the first one, how they handled that way better. And in this one,
really,
I think so. The aftermath of it, I should say, like the during part.
Oh, okay, yes. Well, I hate the aftermath of both, but because I liked Red Dead 2 more, the aftermath wasn't as bad for me.
Okay, so it's so funny because the character that you play as in like the very end of the game in 2, I like a lot more. I like him more than the first guy.
Well, it's John Marsden.
Yeah. I guess it's not really a spoiler to say.
You don't like Arthur Morgan?
I do. I don't dislike him. I just like John more. I
find John to have no personality at all. He is like this blank slate. Arthur Morgan is this like this guy who has like, depending on how you play him, of course, if you play a villain or whatnot.
Yeah.
But if you play like the honorable route, he's this dude who has like a heart of gold, who like doesn't know anything. Like he was raised in that life, so he doesn't know anything different, and he wants to try to find peace with himself. For like he feels guilty, he's remorseful of his actions, whereas John Marsden is like, well, it is what it is. And he didn't have any like strong emotions one way or another, other than like, yeah, he wanted to protect his wife and kid, but I never even got the vibe he liked them all that much. Especially from the second game, how they show the prequel. Like,
yeah,
I don't know, just John just doesn't have any like. There's just not a lot that's interesting about him to me.
So maybe what I should say then is I think I like Arthur as a character more, but I like John. John is, I think, more interesting, but I like Arthur more.
Really? See, I think that like John is is less interesting.
Really?
Than Arthur. So John is the main character of the first game. That's,
yes.
We're not conflating. Yeah. I just
right.
want to make sure we're not screwing that up.
Mr. Marston.
He just doesn't have any like. There's just no character to him at all. Like, I don't know. He doesn't really have an arc per se. He kind of does, Like
I think he does. I think much like Arthur, he grew up in that life too, and he's trying to do best to get out of it, and for his wife and kid, and he's awkward, and he's very like, I don't know how to do this fatherhood thing. I don't know how to be like a good partner. I've tried to be like a good man by my standards as like a gunslinger, but I liked seeing his struggle of like, okay, so now I am like trying to live legit, and
That's fair.
and the whole like it coming back to haunt him every time. I just found that really interesting, and maybe it's like this is a very shallow reason, but I love his voice actor and his character's like his actor's portrayal, his voice and his physical performance. I thought was incredible. Arthur's was excellent too. That being said, I think the very end of the game with everything with the ranch with John went entirely too long. That should have been there should have been it should have been a quarter the length. I was like, because you have this like incredible climax, and it's like, oh my god, this is like one of the most compelling stories I've ever seen. Polisa kept walking by when I was playing it, and she was like, oh my god, like I'm caring about these characters that I don't even know. Like this feels like a movie. Like the presentation of this is incredible. And then you do this like ranching stuff afterwards for like hours. I was like, okay, cool, it's gonna end, like it's gonna be roll credits, and it's gonna go right into RDR1. Nope, you gotta build a goddamn house from the ground up, and then like I would have been fine if that was the end of it, but then it's just like quest after quest after quest after boring thing, and it's like, I wish if you had just built the house, had the I liked the stuff with the ranch as he's trying to get away and the whole fake name thing. I liked the guy, him chasing the guys off and then being like, wow, you were really good at that, and him trying to be like, oh no, downplaying it. I wish you built the house. I wish you went fishing with your son, and then I wish that was like pretty much the end of it. Like it was 3 to 5 extra hours of just like nonsense chores, and I was like, I want to feel like I'm rewarded for getting to the end of this game, not like now I have to work. So that like kind of dampened it a bit for me at the end there.
See, because both Red Deads did that for me, and I didn't like either of that. I didn't like that in either game. So when it happened in Red Dead 2, I'm like, they're just doing it again. So it didn't bother me all that much, because I thought it was so bad in the first one.
Really? Maybe I don't quite remember how it goes down in the first one.
You fucking wrestle horses. You like lasso horses and have to wrangle them up and shit.
Yeah.
Sorry, she's like coughing up a storm, the poor kiddo.
Aww. Well, we can wrap up if you want. I mean, we're just under an hour here. I only have like 2 other things I can briefly touch on that are somewhat related, but it's nothing that's super time sensitive.
What is she? She's like just. Sorry, she's like just shaking in her, like not like a seizure, just to be clear.
Okay,
like,
jeez.
I can't tell what she's doing. All right. So real quick before we do wrap up, I'm sorry I've been so it's just one of those nights.
It's life.
What the other thing I experienced this week? I just finished it today, and I'm going to be interviewing the author on Thursday.
The Bible. Oh.
Yeah. I finished reading a book.
Too much fun. It
is the 5 Lives of the Commodore 64. It's all about it's a very technical book.
Okay.
Like it's meant for academia. Like it's published by the MIT Press.
Whoa.
Here's the cool thing about this. Here's the cool thing about this book. It's not out yet.
What? You're a time traveler.
Review copy, baby.
Nice.
I got a review copy.
That's dope.
I got contacted by the MIT Press to.
Right, I remember that. You told me. That's dope.
It's wild.
And you're correct,
and I
Parallax.
really want to talk more about it because I really, really liked it. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I liked about this, despite how. What is she doing? This kid, like, I can't tell what she's up to.
I'm just imagining she's just breakdancing on the floor, just like absolutely throwing it down.
She's like she's wiggling her legs a whole bunch, which makes me think that she's like having to poo but holding it
Trying
in and
not to.
letting it out.
Damn.
Yeah, it's really fucking annoying. I love her to pieces, but holy shit. um, just I don't think she's cold. She's wrapped up in anyway. Um, yeah, we might have to end this sooner than later just because the kiddo is like not just cooperating with stuff. I
Yeah.
might, depending on how go ask what
So, like, what's the deal? Like, what do you like? What are you into?
that was pretty
Perfect
good. That was
response.
pretty good. I think she's settling in. We'll see. But
Okay.
anyway, plus with the cough syrup, it's going to help. So yeah, the book was fantastic. It was very dry because it's meant for academia, so there's not like
Right.
a narrative per se. But I'm not like under like a press embargo or anything like that, so I don't know how much I can and can't say. But
Hmm.
I really enjoyed my time with this, and I'm really looking forward to uh like talking to the author, speaking with the author on Thursday,
Yeah.
and interview him because like one I can say this, one of the points that he brings up in this, and I think it's a really good point, is the Americanizing of video game history, the American
Oh.
washing of video game history,
Okay.
and it's something I've known for a while too. So I won't list specifically the points that he makes in his book because I want to save it for the episode. Excuse me. But like one of the things that I have a frustration with on the internet is that when it comes to game history, almost everything is Nintendo and Sega centric.
Yeah.
North American
Right.
Nintendo and Sega centric, you know? And it's like this with the NES, right? If you look at the NES, almost all YouTube content, most retro gaming YouTube content is NES related in some way, shape, or form. NES, Super Nintendo,
Yeah.
N64, and all from a North American perspective. And whenever you bring up the video game crash of 1983, a lot of YouTubers make it sound like it's a worldwide phenomenon. It was a worldwide phenomenon. It wasn't. It was very local to North America.
Huh. I don't
Very
think I even knew that.
did you know about the crash or not the
Oh,
local?
either.
Like, so, brief video game history lesson. In 1983, the video game market in North America bottomed out, largely it's credited, even though it's not true, it's attributed to, I should say, to the ET game for the Atari 2600, that
Right.
infamous game. That was not the main reason. It was just it just became the whipping boy of it. It just became the punchline.
Yeah.
What it really was is that Atari saturated the market. There was no quality control, and in a weird
Yeah.
sense, not having to pay Atari for a license, not having to pay anything to make a game for the Atari, is what doomed them, because you could make the artwork look beautiful, then you play the game and it was like unplayable.
They always did. I
Um,
want to get that thick art book of all the Atari like cover art.
yes,
So cool.
Not Matt Leone. There was someone who made a book like that. Yeah,
Mm.
so um,
We're,
yeah,
real
that's it.
real quick. Did you watch the on Netflix there was like a kind of arcade
Yeah.
gaming history. I feel like
Yeah, I did watch
they
it.
talked about that a little bit in that cuz it sounded familiar what you're saying about the licensing and things like that.
Yeah, and that's pretty much like what killed the industry for a short time, for about 2 years in North America. But even then, that's not even entirely true, because computer gaming was a big thing. In fact, one of the points he does bring up, without going into specific points, it's more of just a stat figure that I learned from this book. The Commodore 64 was the best-selling home computer of the 80s. Just
Wow.
period. It was commercially, it was also the only computer commercially successful in North America and in Europe.
Huh.
Other computers, like, they stuck to each side of the pond, like Apple and IBM
Right.
and Windows stuff was mainly popular over here, and then over in like Europe, it was like Amiga and ZX Spectrums and stuff like that.
Do you know about the HAL, like why HAL Laboratories named themselves that?
Yeah, because it's one letter above IBM.
Yes. That's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
funny to me. What shade?
So in 1983, the game market crashed, and that's, like, even in American history, like, that era of game history gets overlooked. You might focus in on the arcades a little bit, because the arcades were still kind of going then, but like, in terms of gaming at the home, no one pays attention to what kind of games are coming out at the home.
Not till the
and
NES.
not till the NES, which was 85, and even then that was a slow rollout.
Yeah.
It launched in the New York market in 85 and then slowly rolled out across the country. That's the one of the points he brings up. And there's an amazing YouTuber. I'm going to shout him out quick. It's like Stika. I can't hold on. I can't ever pronounce his name. It might be Strika actually. Hold on. It's ST, the number one, like the numeral one, KA. And he is from Portugal. And so when he does his videos in English, but when he does them in English, like it's a very thick Portuguese accent. Excuse me. And so he does videos about stuff that's like not really well known, especially because he grew up in Portugal, and one of the things he really rails against, one, he's serious about it, but he also enjoys trolling people. He hates the N64. He thinks it's worse than the Sega Saturn.
Whoa. Genuinely or just a troll?
Genuinely, but he enjoys trolling at the same time.
Ah, it hurts me.
I haven't played the Sega Saturn enough to really make an argument one way or another, but like for example, he did a video I don't think I've watched. I might have watched a while ago. The Brazilian Mega Man.
Nice.
And it's like that's most likely based off like he does stuff like that, like just he focuses on a more European perspective of it. And one of the things he talks about a lot of times on Twitter and on social media and whatnot is just how American washed game history is. Because think of it think for example the Sega Master System, right? Didn't do well here in North America. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The NES trounced it. However, if you go outside of North America, it did exceptionally well. Brazil, it is still actually being sold by the licensor from Sega Tectoy, basically just as like one of those like retro systems and whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like they talk about that type of stuff. He talks about that type of stuff, and like so much of retro gaming YouTube is focused on the American experience, and that's not a bad thing, but because of that, it has controlled the narrative to the point where people believe that the game crash of 83 was a worldwide game crash when it was not. It was only local to North America. It's controlled to the point that they believe the N64 was like one of the most beloved systems of all time, when really it was actually just a North American popular thing. It wasn't even that popular in Japan.
Really?
Outside of, yeah. I mean, it sold okay, but the PlayStation ate its lunch in Japan.
Yeah.
And PlayStation ate its lunch in general. It sold like over 100 million units,
Sure.
and like or 90 something million, and like the N64 I think sold like 40 something. Like it did not sell well.
Whoa.
Yeah, if you hold on, I
didn't realize it was that much of a difference.
Top selling game consoles. Just so I have the list in front of me. Side note, the Switch is getting very close to it's number 3 now at 146 million.
Wow.
It is less than 10 million away from the PS2.
Dang. Is the Wii still number 1?
Wii is nowhere. That's at 101 million.
Oh, what's number 1 then?
PS2, 155.
Oh! I thought you were saying PS2 was second place. Okay,
No.
That makes perfect sense.
The Nintendo DS family is second placed at 154. So ready. So the Super Famicom sold 49.1. Super Nintendo sold 49.1 million. The N64 sold 32.93 million. That is worldwide, by the way.
Wow.
Put in perspective, the PS1 sold 102.
Holy crap.
49, like it tripled it.
Yeah.
It is not even close. So North America, we revere the N64 so much for good reason. It had lots of great stuff on it. But if you really compare to like what was happening at the time, it didn't sell very well at all. Now, the Sega Saturn did much worse. It only sold 9.26 million.
Yeah.
Barely more than the Dreamcast. And the Dreamcast had a lot less of a lifespan than the Saturn did.
That hurts me because the Dreamcast lineup was so much better than anything that was ever on the Saturn.
But once again, that is a very actually the Dreamcast was popular everywhere. Let's be real. It was popular in North America. It was popular in Europe. It was popular over in Japan. But yeah, the Saturn did better outside of North America. It did much better in Japan. Still not great. 9.26 million isn't crazy, but like the most likely his bias is coming in there because he is a Sega fan, so he's going to lean towards the Sega system. And as much as I love the N64, the early 3D is pretty janky on it versus the Sega Saturn. While the 3D on the Sega Saturn was even more janky, it also had a lot more 2D stuff that has aged a lot better than what the N64 has. So I don't know the Saturn library well enough to be like, yeah, he's right, but it's yeah. So
I got
this
a
book
hard disagree, but
but
that's fair.
How
That's
much
all
of the
personal.
Saturn library has you played though?
Have I?
Yeah,
very little because there's nothing on it that I like. I mean,
but that's the thing. Like that's your perception of it. That's the problem. That is the North American perception versus like. Hold on. If I just Google best Sega Saturn games.
I would say Fighting Vipers and Panzer Dragoon and
you have,
Nights into Dreams are
Saturn, Bomberman, Virtua Fighter 2, Guardian Heroes, Panzer Dragoon Saga, Nights into Dreams, Burning Rangers, Radiant Silvergun is really popular. Shining Force 3, that would have been a really big one because the Shining Force series is really popular. There's a port of Symphony of the Night, but that was on PS1, so I won't really count that too much.
I think it was on Dreamcast too.
There's a lot of JRPGs on it. Shining Wisdom. I don't like. There's a ton, and like the thing is like, you can't say there wasn't anything good on it if you haven't done the research to try it out. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm not interested in any of the games that you mentioned. I mean, I have played the ones that like I've gone back and played consoles that I didn't play much as a kid, like the Sega Saturn, and I was like, okay, there's like maybe.
Yeah, but you're also, it's a very anecdotal thing. I'm only listing. Actually, here we go. TheGamer.com, 18 Sega Saturn games that still hold up. Let's see about this. Let's see what they say. This was updated just in September of this year, actually. There's Shmups Legend of Oasis. It's a Zelda-like action RPG. That looks really good.
Didn't they put that?
Port of Resident Evil.
I thought that was a Genesis game. Maybe they did an Oasis game on.
There is Beyond Oasis on
that
the
was
Genesis. This is probably a sequel to it as well, I would guess. It's a prequel, to Beyond Oasis. Astal looks pretty good. It's a beautiful looking, like sprite-based 2D platformer that looks beautiful. It's like an illustration come to life. There is a fighting game called Princess Crown, and it's one of the most underrated Sega Saturn games, apparently.
I like Fighting Vipers.
Rangers looks dope.
Burning Rangers I've heard is good.
I'm not a big racing fan, but Sega Rally Championship, if that's your jam. Bulk Slash, what is that? That is
okay. Now you said one. I was very, very close to emulating, and specifically because I don't think it was released in the US, but there was a somewhat recent English patch that came out. I saw somebody playing it, and the gameplay and the soundtrack are incredible for that game. Is it worth me playing, getting an entire console for it? Probably not.
No, but like I think the point I'm trying to make is just because there's no games that interest you doesn't mean that the library is suddenly worse than the N64. Like you kind of got to look at it in aggregate, which is hard to do because if you want to look for those games, if you want to buy the Sega Saturn is one of the most expensive systems to collect for. It's not even close. If I were to do anything, I'd probably look into I'd probably ask Sega Saturn fans for their recommendations of games, because the thing is with the N64, like I love the system, don't get me wrong, the games that were good on it were like fucking amazing, but if you really look at the library, like other than Rare and first party Nintendo stuff, there's good games out there. I'm not saying there isn't, but it's like you're looking at maybe like 20 to 30 like really solid games.
I think that's still, even within that number, it's still 2 to 3 times more than what's on the Saturn. Like I'm not
I don't
saying.
know. I think we don't have enough information to make that judgment, is what I'm saying.
I think half of it is my personal taste, and like there's a bunch of JRPGs that I'm just not interested in because I'm they're all kind of the same to me, and I'm like, I play the ones that I like. I'm not that interested in the ones that are
But
on the Sega
being
Saturn.
not interested in something doesn't mean it's not good.
Right. Okay. So half
know
of
what
it,
I mean?
half of it is my personal, just like I've never really been interested in the Saturn.
Same.
The other half is like I I don't think that there's any. I shouldn't say any. There are, I think, way more games on the N64 that have held up over time and have like a much deeper legacy in terms of video
Legacy,
gaming.
yes. Legacy, yes. But even that, like, the very few N64 games, in my opinion, hold up well.
Really?
Other than Mario 64, I actually don't think Ocarina of Time has held up all that well. I think Ocarina of Time is one of the most important games of all time. Not taking anything away from it, but in terms of like going back to play it, I actually find it kind of a boring experience.
Huh.
That's with hindsight. You know, when it came out, it was the best game I ever played.
Sure.
Like Ocarina of Time's weird for me because that was my favorite game of all time for a very, very, very long time. And then it got to the point where I played it so much where now I'm just kind of like, man, this game's overrated because I played it so much where I'm like, it just doesn't do it for me. That's my own perception of it though.
The Parallax is saying you made a lot of people very mad.
I can live with it. I can live with that. No,
I'm surprised to hear you say that, honestly. Like,
I think Majora's Mask still holds up really well. I understand it's got similar camera angles and like technical issues, but like same kind of N64 jank as it were. I think actually GoldenEye, other than the gameplay is designed around the control, so it doesn't hold up awfully. But like outside of like the Rare games and Mario game and like Nintendo first party Nintendo stuff, like what else is there? Like even some of the first party Nintendo stuff doesn't hold up amazingly. Like Kirby and the Shards apparently isn't a very popular, whatever the Shards is, the Crystal Shards.
I love that game.
Isn't very I've heard mixed reviews on it. I haven't personally played it.
I think it's great. I actually I just introduced it to Polisa recently because she likes pastel and cute stuff, but the soundtrack of that game is incredible, and the gameplay function of like the powers and how you can combine the powers is incredible. I think that one still holds up. I think Majora's Mask, I wouldn't say I'm not on Parallax's level of thinking it's the worst Zelda game or one of the worst, but I think it's
Ocarina.
I think it's you think it's better than Ocarina?
Oh yeah, not more important but better.
I don't know. I feel like for me it started to fall apart a little bit more. I felt like it was too stretched out. Like
Ocarina, my issue now with Ocarina, the reason why it's aged so poorly to me is realizing that honestly part of it is Egoraptor's video Sequelitis on it really kind of started the ball rolling. It wasn't like what made me start won't say disliking it, but like just not enjoying it as much as I used to. But that started it. It mainly was just like, I don't know, it's very impressive for the time, but I think what ultimately the reason why Ocarina just doesn't work for me is that I think it epitomizes to me that the Zelda formula that stuck around for too long. Like Link to the Past started it. Ocarina is basically another version of Link to the Past, just like a 3D remake of a reimagining, a 3D reimagining of Link to the Past. Like, because you have your 3 collectibles in the beginning, which then something happens and the whole world changes, and you have a dark version of the world. Then you have to go to like 6 different temples, which is exactly like Link to the Past. And then they just kind of dressed it up in some different storytelling garb. Good storytelling, mind you. I like the story of Ocarina.
I think the gameplay is just night and day. I would play Ocarina of Time any day over A Link to the Past, just because of how it plays, and I like the presentation of the 3D world versus the top-down 2D world, even if it is telling the same like structure story.
I prefer Link to the Past gameplay over Ocarina's.
Really?
Uh, Majora's Mask is not just one big fetch quest. That is a very like by that logic, so is Ocarina of Time. You're just always fetching the next gem. It's just another big like you could make that same argument for almost every Zelda.
I think if you where that comes more into play is like when you want to get every mask in Majora's Mask, then it's like, okay, you got to go.
It's optional. That's not part of the game.
I know.
It's not mandatory.
But it should still be fun. Like the main whole. I didn't find that fun getting all.
I don't know.
The
The side quests in Ocarina I think are boring.
Oh, I love doing the oh my god.
Happy Mask Salesman.
Well,
Bigger on Sword. Bigger on Sword is a giant.
That's only a fetch quest. Yeah. I'm trying to think of what the main side quests were in Ocarina of Time. I just remember
Skulltulas. Oh, so now you can't even think of the side quests of it. That doesn't help it at all. That almost makes it less if you can't even remember what they are. You know what I mean? Like, is it memorable if you can't think of it? Like, I just rattled off a whole bunch though. A Skulltula, Bigger on Sword, Happy Mask Salesman. There's also if you want to do the little plant seed things that you can travel back and forth. That's more of like kind of mini quest side quests. Like it's like little things that prompt you to.
I guess getting the magic
for the world. The magic is cool. The magic is cool.
Yeah.
I'll give it that. I love the visual look of the magic. I don't know. I guess the reason why I've ended up enjoying Majora's Mask more is that it is a much more ambitious game, and I think the 3DS remake fixed a lot. I think it fixed a lot of the issues of the original N64 one because saving was a problem. I'm not going to deny that. That is an objective, like major flaw. You can only save at these owl statues, and then it was like it was weird how the time travel mechanic worked. But like, it's so much more interesting and engaging to me because there's a lot more stakes. Like you have to be much more objective oriented each day. Like, all right, what am I going to do in these next 3 days before I have to rewind time?
Yeah, the feeling of the stakes is probably my favorite aspect of that game.
But like, I guess with Ocarina, it just I'm not taking anything away from its importance because it is much more important than Majora's Mask. It's not even close. Like the two of the most important 3D games of all time are from the N64, Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time.
Yeah,
Mario showed how platformers could work in 3D. Zelda showed how like a way to make adventure games work in 3D. One of the points that Ego Raptor makes about and Majora's Mask does this too, so I can't give it say that this is a knock against Ocarina because both games do this. But I think it's an interesting point is that combat and exploration are almost two entirely different. They don't flow together at all.
Yeah.
Like if you are exploring the world and you suddenly enter combat, you have to hit Z targeting, which is a completely different type of thing. And also the puzzles in Ocarina are not good in general. Like there's some good ones, but most of them are just like find an eyeball on the wall and shoot it with an arrow. That's not a puzzle. That's just looking around on a camera. Also is Ego Raptor also brings up a good point. Like in a lot of those like kind of mid dungeon fights, not bosses, but you know, like the Stalfos that you have to like has a really dramatic music. They're not that hard to fight. You just have to hold your shield up, wait for them to attack, and then you counterattack. And is it really a puzzle or a challenge to just sit there and stare and waiting for the attack? Like there's like if there was a more complex pattern, like you know the Dark Link type of thing. Not saying it has to be that challenging. But if there was a more complex pattern, then yeah, you could argue it. But otherwise, you're just playing the waiting game. There's no challenge to it. It's just maybe if you want to argue that patience is the challenge, but that's not really that. I don't know. There's times that you can use that as an interesting gameplay challenge and mechanic, and I don't think it works in this.
I would say, and this is very much on an individual level. I don't know if I would say Navi is best bay Parallax, but
I don't hate. To be clear, Navi did not ruin that game for me. I don't hate her as much as everyone else.
Oh,
she
no.
annoys me, but
me either. So a bit of context. I used to not really like the Stalfos fights, but this most recent time I didn't play it, but I showed it to Palisa recently, and she's coming from Kingdom Hearts, where you just press X to win, and she just kept like smashing and smashing and smashing the sword just like over and over and over. And I was like, just chill, just calm down for a sec. Like, think about when to attack, think about when to block, think about, and that fight in particular, those fights, because there's multiple of them, were one of the ones that would get her to be like, okay, I can't just mash to win. You have to find the opening. You have to block when they're attacking. You have to attack when they lift up their sword, or like if they jump, then you can jump and follow them. And I feel like that like kind of really cemented the intention. I think it's not just patience, it's like intention that is the mechanic there of like choosing when to do an attack, when to do a block, when to jump, when to sidestep. So I would say, I know this is a very specific case, but I really started to appreciate those fights in that game when I was watching Palisa play it. So I don't know.
That's a fair point.
I just like playing that game more than I like playing Majora's Mask. I do miss the powers of each, like the Goron and the Zora powers and stuff. Those are really cool. I mean, the Deku power is fine, but I love
like hop skipping across the water and blowing bubbles.
Yeah. I do love being able to like charge up the roll with the spikes and like or swim in the water really fast. That was rad. But I think it felt very disconnected to me. Or I don't know, maybe I was just, as a kid, I was expecting a game to wow me as much as Ocarina did, and it just didn't.
It wouldn't have. I think like, have you played Majora's since you were a kid?
I think the last time I played it, I was 17 or 18, so like not kid, but like not recently.
I'd be curious. I'm not saying you're gonna like it more than Ocarina. But I'd be very curious if you go back and play it and like try to play through it. I'd be very curious what your thoughts are on it.
Yeah, I'd like to play the 3DS
just to see like what if your opinion has changed at all.
Yeah, I would be curious too. And plus, I haven't played either Ocarina or the Majora's Mask 3DS remake, so I'd like to play. If I played it all, I'd probably play that just to see how it's changed.
The 3DS remakes are good, especially with Majora. My only beef is the fourth boss of the fourth temple boss is so much harder on the 3DS remake than the original. But in the original, the first boss is so much harder than in the 3DS remake.
Oh.
So they kind of like swap it out. From what I remember, I didn't have an issue with the first boss when I played it as a kid, but I never beat the original version as a kid. I beat it on the 3DS years later. I don't know. I guess for me with Ocarina of Time, it's just gotten to the point where it's just like, it just doesn't do it for me anymore. That's fair. There's no, like, that game was only operating for me on wow factor, and once the wow factor wore off, there wasn't much left of it for me. And my nostalgia of that wow factor doesn't prop the game up enough to make me interested. Like, I actually replayed it last year, like late last year, because I was trying to. The idea was my wife and I were trying to have a second kid. We're still not pregnant, unfortunately, but I was planning on playing a whole bunch of games and redoing a bunch of episodes. I was going to call it Refreshing the Page.
Nice.
Still loading moniker.
Hey.
Refreshing the Page. And it was going to be games that I had covered before on the show that I didn't think I did a good enough job with that I wanted to redo again. And Refreshing the Page, it was the name of the series. I actually recorded one of them too. It's in the archive somewhere.
Nice.
But I replayed Ocarina of Time in preparation for that, and it just never really came to fruition. But I replayed it, and it's like, I don't know, it's still just fine. Like, it's a really, let me put it this way. It's one of those things where I can acknowledge that this game is really good for what it is. Like, it's a really solid N64 action adventure game.
Yeah.
It's a really good one.
For the time, I think, more than anything.
Yeah, exceptionally so for the time. Like, I don't think it holds up poorly, but it doesn't hold up great anymore, or at least for me. It's just now my emotional connection is so, like, meh about it. Like, I'm so nonplussed about it. Where it's like, things I like about it. I love the music. I love a lot of the visuals. I love the I like a lot of the different boss fights actually, and the dungeons are really interesting. But it's just I just don't really enjoy playing it all that much anymore. That's really what it
Mm,
comes down to. Like, there's lots of stuff I like about it. I just, excuse me,
yeah,
it's just not really my cup of tea anymore.
that's fair. I mean, it it's one of those games that's just in the zeitgeist, so like it's just always there, and I can see that kind of being like, okay, yeah, I get it, or like,
Well, it's
but,
it's funny. We did. I guested on actually. Parallax knows this podcast, Retro Hangover. They do a series which you would love to be a part of. You would probably get mad at it at some point, but you would love to be. It's called King of Games,
okay,
and it's a bracket style tournament where they pick a year. They do like King of Games 92, King of Games, 96 or whatever.
mm,
And they put games up head to head against each other to find out which game from that was released that year was the king of games
okay,
of that year. And the criteria that they grade these on are like it's critical and commercial reception because you want to try to take there's going to be personal preference, don't get me wrong,
yeah,
but a lot of the criteria is based around more objective measurements like critical commercial reception, how was it received at the time, legacy, like historical importance, how does this like what does this game do for the grand scheme of things, which would you rather play today, that's much more personal
mm.
obviously, and then I think which would you rather more play today, or fuck, what's the fourth one? Let me hold on. Let me look up a Google Doc to find out what the fourth category is. But basically, you would discuss it out with everyone, and you didn't just because people voted a specific way didn't necessarily mean that it was going to like that game was going to move on, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Um, so here, hold on. I'm so close to finding it, I think. These are all shit. I don't know if still have some of these notes anymore. Um, but it was like oh my gosh, critical commercial reception. How like legacy. Which would you rather play today? And I'm blanking on the fourth fucking category. I'm getting kind of annoyed at myself. I'll see if
Sorry.
I can find notes for it. But in any case, so then you would all vote on it, and it would all just determine. Actually, I think I found a Google Doc for it. I did. Okay, so audio visual presentation. That's what it is. Audio visual, which is still a little subjective, don't get me wrong,
Hmm.
but yeah, so it's critical and commercial reception, legacy, audio visual presentation, and which would you rather play today, and you would vote on each one, and so if one game could win a category, you would count which categories each game won, and at the end it could be like maybe one game, theoretically you don't have to vote for that, even if one game wins all the categories you could still choose to move the other one forward. Wasn't always the case, but like I can tell you there was like a contentious episode that I don't think has been released yet, so I'm not going to say what the two games were because
Ooh,
we're doing another one
inside scoop.
where one of the games won 3 of the 4 categories, but it didn't advance to the next round
Huh.
because, in my opinion, its legacy was so strong it didn't matter. Like the so like it was like if in terms of critical commercial reception, right? Let's say the one game was higher than the other. Let's say if you're going on a percentage difference, let's say it's like the other game was like 10% higher in terms of like being more critically and commercially important, right? um which would you rather play today? That's kind of a toss up, it's just
Hmm.
whatever you prefer. I think that the game that lost did win that one as well, though, just because the gameplay style was much more conducive for modern audiences than what the old one was. But like, I don't know. Back in the day, it wouldn't have made much of a difference. That's what you kind of knew. Legacy, though, like the game that won Legacy, which ultimately moved on, it won it by like 50%. It was
Okay.
like such a huge difference in terms of percent. So like even though it lost the three categories, in my mind it won that one category by such a wide margin that it propelled it to the next round, at least for me. And it was a little contentious. Like there was some arguments about it. Um, I know I'm being purposely vague, but that's kind of the point of the King of Games. Like you debate these things, and it's just something to be fun.
Yeah.
So, well, Link to the Past was on in 1992, and that has already come out. That has been released, so I can talk about that. This is a bit of a spoiler alert for it, but it lost in like the third round, even though Link to the Past is considered, like almost is like Link to the Past. It's fucking, of course, it's one of the greatest games of all time. But I think the reason it lost to the game that it did was that kind of like the reason I brought this whole crazy story up is you mentioned how, like, oh, Ocarina of Time, of course, it's such a great game, but it's almost feel like people talk about it too much and it's become more of like contrived. I was like, yeah, of course, it's Ocarina of Time. Like, there's no thought put into it. It's a great game. And then when you go back and actually play it, it just doesn't hold up to that standard. It feels like it's still a great game, but like it doesn't. Like if a game is like a 95 out of 100, and that's what everyone always considers it as, or 100 out of 100, and then you go play it and it's like a 90 out of 100, it feels even though it's still an A, 10 points off is a big difference. You know what I mean? That's kind of how Ocarina feels to me, and that's kind of how Link to the Past lost in that thing, where it got to the point where no one was talking passionately about Link to the Past because everything had already been said. Everyone's like, yeah, Link to the Past, it's a good game, but I've played it 1,000 times. I've played every Zelda 1,000 times because it's the same fucking formula
Yeah.
for the next. And like that's why Breath of the Wild was such a revelation, because I know you're not a fan of. You like Tears of the Kingdom, I think you said, right?
Yeah, I liked Breath of the Wild, but I love Tears of the Kingdom. It's probably in top 5 Zelda games for me.
See, I've been playing more Zelda games, but it's been hard for me to hold on. I'm curious about Zelda games. Like, this is the complete diatribe, but
I was gonna say.
I know, I don't think I'm streaming tonight again.
Okay.
I don't care about the fucking timeline. Okay, which games have I played? I've played the original but not beaten it. I've never played Adventure of Link. I've played and beaten Links to the Past, Link's Awakening, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask. Never played Oracle of Seasons or Ages. Never played Four Swords. Beat Wind Waker. Never played Four Swords Adventures. Never played Minish Cap. Played Twilight Princess. Did not enjoy it in the slightest.
That's a hotter take than mine. I don't love Twilight Princess. I think it's very overrated.
I don't understand why people like it. It's boring.
Yeah, I found it very boring.
I like the visuals well enough. I played Phantom Hourglass. Here's a hot take. I like Phantom Hourglass.
I love that game.
I dabbled in Spirit Tracks, but never really played enough to make any opinion one way or another. Then it's Ocarina of Time 3D. I never played.
Parallax is about to quit us. I know. I've talked about it before. I'm so sorry, Parallax. And my other hot take is that Skyward Sword is what I wanted Twilight Princess to be. So I love Skyward Sword, and I thought Twilight Princess was fine. I'll probably never play it again.
My issue with Twilight Princess it takes all the bad lessons of the Zelda formula and puts it into a game. I can't say that with 100% definitive clarity because I never actually beat it, but like one of the tropes of the Zelda genre, like the old school Zelda formula, is that you get a new item or tool in the dungeon, and then you use that tool to beat the boss,
right.
And then you never really use it again. And that was true by and large, but you would always find stuff that you would use later on. Like in Ocarina of Time, you get the bow and arrow in the first dungeon in the Forest Temple, but you do use it throughout the rest of the game.
Yeah.
You get the Megaton hammer or whatever it is in the Fire Temple, but you use it in other spots throughout the game too. in not Phantom Hour, sorry, in Twilight Princess, you get that fucking desktop thing, and you really only use it in that one temple,
Yeah.
and you never use it again.
It was
except
cool
for
in that temple. I wanted to use it more. I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
but
this is gonna be awesome.
and I got pretty far in the game too. I never beat it. So I never played Skyward Sword. I dabbled in A Link Between Worlds, and I did enjoy what I played of it. Just never really got any further. Did not even try Triforce Heroes, not for any particular reason. It just didn't really appeal to me. Played and beat Breath of the Wild. I really liked that. And then I've played a bit of Tears of the Kingdom, but I have not had a chance to really do anything with it because of podcast, and that game is fucking like 80 hours long.
Yeah, I keep thinking, obviously Mondays or main quest Mondays are out here. I keep thinking like I got to be getting close to the end. And then I'm like, oh, another quest. Okay, another. Oh, okay, we'll just keep going. Okay, all right, that's fine. I'm on like part 15 or something. Like I've streamed it 15 times, and I think I'm safely, I can say, in the last 80%, or in the. I've probably gotten to 3/4 of the way through.
And Parallax, real quick, you're saying, okay, Spinner was used in more than one dungeon. In the Sky Temple, you need to activate the bridges. You can also use it to harm enemies. I don't know. Maybe I just didn't find the Spinner very useful. I felt like Twilight Princess just, I don't know. I couldn't get into it, I guess. I do want to force myself to finish it, because I got like 20 hours into it or so, and I just lost interest.
Yeah, I like the ending.
I don't remember the ball and chain.
She ain't no ball and chain.
You're talking about my wife. No, that's not why.
Hey!
Oh, wait, oh.
No, come on now. What was I gonna say? Damn it. We got off talking about all the Zelda games. Twilight Princess is one of the best stories and ending bosses. I do like the ending. I don't really like the story in Twilight Princess.
I don't know. If the story's good, I can't tell, because Midna is more painful than Navi, in my opinion.
Yeah. I
hate Midna so much. She's so obnoxious.
I also don't like playing as the wolf. I thought it was cool the first time, but I was like, afterwards I was like, oh my god, you have to fight the freaking, do the thing where you hold the thing down to select all the enemies and zap 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 zap. What? I know. I just it wasn't for me.
You know what, Andrew? I'm happy, as much as we differ on Ocarina of Time, we're in solidarity with our anti-Twilight Princess.
So sorry, Parallax. I know it hurts. I'd be curious to see. You said you never played Skyward Sword?
No.
I'd be curious to see what you think about that. There is a big and valid complaint that at the end of Skyward Sword, it just becomes kind of a collectathon, much in the way that the original Wind Waker did. So I actually don't know if the HD Skyward Sword truncated that fetch quest down like the HD Wind Waker did. But overall, I love Skyward Sword. It's brighter, it's more vibrant, it's more interesting characters. I like the story more. It's got so much stakes. You get so much lore because it's the first one that happens chronologically. And selfishly, the Zelda, the incarnation of Zelda, is my favorite of the whole franchise. I love that game's particular Zelda. She's a victim.
My hot take is that the best Zelda is Wind Waker. I shouldn't say it's a hot take, but in my opinion, that's like the best Zelda game.
I wouldn't argue with that. I think that's a fair. I think much in the way that, like, Police and I were just talking about this. My favorite Studio Ghibli movie is Princess Mononoke. However, I think the best one is Spirited Away. I think my favorite Zelda is Ocarina of Time, but I do think Wind Waker is the best. So like there's a difference there. Particularly HD Wind Waker, because you don't have to do half as much of the Triforce stupid ass quest. Mononoke is amazing. Hell yeah. Okay, we can agree on that. I'm glad you didn't unsubscribe yet.
Is Zelda the James Bond of video games, in that it's one of the longest running franchises and that the entries are so very
Polarizing.
amongst fans, polarizing, and
Yeah.
because that's the thing with James Bond fan. Like I did a ranking episode that I released for everyone in the free feed on Friday. It was a little less than a week ago now. Got like 4 or 5 days ago it came out, and it's like 4 hours long.
Damn.
It was long, but like our rankings were so far apart. Like I put Quantum of Solace about midway through the pack, and then like my two guests put it literally dead last.
Whoa. Okay. I
Yeah.
didn't like it, but I don't know if I would go dead last. Well, I also can't say that because I haven't seen all 26 of them.
They hated Quantum of Solace. Though the one guest, Mel, she had a very good reason for it. She, after Casino Royale came out and kind of revitalized Bond in pop culture again, like kind of like what Skyfall did for a short amount of time.
Yeah.
It she had a big like showing party where she invited a bunch of friends over who had never seen a James Bond movie, and she was like, "Yeah, you don't need to see Casino Royale. This is going to be its own thing. You know, it's
no.
going to be fine." And then
And it's one of the few direct sequels.
yeah, and she had a whole party, people over having a great time. They all go to the theater, and she's like, I just sunk into the seat, and I was so embarrassed that I forced everyone to come to and spend money to this pile of crap. And I was like, oh, it's not that bad. But I told her, and I said in her defense, that movie works better if you watch it within like a day of Casino Royale. If you watch it like a year later, which that movie
When it came out
2 years after, it's a lot harder to follow the story because the story, it was behind the scenes. There was a writer's strike that happened, so like a lot of the writing fell on the director and and Daniel Craig, so there was only so much they could do. But I had when I covered it on my Still Bonding show, I ended up really liking it, especially for the character arc of Bond in that. It was I was pleasantly surprised.
Nice. Yeah, I feel you there, Parallax, too. I like that it is such a varied series. I also like that I don't have to play all of them. Like one of my other Zelda hot takes is I don't have fun playing the top-down 2D games. So I think A Link to the Past is a very well-made game. I don't have fun playing it. I don't really have
You're
fun.
lying to me, and you just said you like Phantom Hourglass.
Okay, that's the exception, and I think I like that more because of the world.
Yeah,
I love the continuation of like the ocean world from Wind Waker.
Also, sorry, finish what you were gonna say.
Oh, I think you may be onto something with like it's the James Bond of video games because they are so varied. There are ones that like if you're in a Sean Connery mood and you feel like abusing your wife, you can watch one of those. If you're in a
Roger Moore mood and you feel like getting abused by your wife, you
right,
can do that too.
If you're in a Daniel Craig mood and you just want to drink,
there's a joke in the James Bonding podcast that I really like to describe Daniel Craig's Bond. Daniel Craig's Bond is the Bond that would go down on his woman versus the other Bonds probably wouldn't.
Yes, That's fair. But yeah, they're all so varied and different, and I like certain ones in different ways. Yeah, nostalgia is a huge factor as to why I think Pierce Brosnan is my favorite Bond. But I will always
also go down on his woman. Let's be real.
Yeah, he probably would.
He's a gentleman and a scholar.
He sure is. I have particular tastes when it comes to Bond movies, just like I have particular tastes when it comes to Zelda games. It pretty much has to be a 3D Zelda for me to really like it, or to feel interested in playing it. That's why. So I didn't play the Link to the Past remake. I didn't play Link Between Worlds. I don't know if I'm gonna play Echoes of Wisdom just because it's the top-down formula. It just doesn't excite me. Like,
I think you should at least try Link Between Worlds, and I haven't played Echoes of Wisdom, but I would at least say that here's the reason. Here's my logic behind it. Based off what you're telling me, a lot of the top-down Zeldas, the core gameplay mechanic of it, of like how combat works, how tools work, is kind of, it's just not your cup of tea. Totally fair.
Yeah.
I think the reason why I was suggesting maybe trying those others is because you liked Phantom Hourglass, and I understand part of it is the world. I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I'm not basing this off of anything you said, but it the type of gameplay for that was different than other top-down Zeldas.
Okay.
Yeah, you still had your sword slashes and stuff like that, but like you could draw the route of your boomerang. You could
Yeah.
use the grappling hook to create like almost like wrestling ropes that you could bounce off of and shit like that. Like there was a lot more interesting ways to play the game than just hit button swipe sword or hit button throw boomerang or hit
Yes.
button shoot hook shot. And in Link Between Worlds, it has all that, but so have you played Link Between Worlds at all? Like have
No,
any
no, I haven't.
concept? So the two things they add to Link Between Worlds, mind you, I never beat it, but the two things they have is that you can get items way earlier in that because there where your home is in like Link because it's like basically the same map as Link to the Past. Where your home is, it's actually a shop that you can either rent the items, or you can flat out buy them so you can get them earlier.
Huh.
And so you can be able to get access to other parts of the world earlier depending on if you got enough rupees to rent the item. By rent, it's not that you run out of time, it's that if you die you lose the item and then you have to re-rent it.
Okay.
So if you buy it, then you keep the item, permanently. The other new gameplay mechanic that they added was that you kind of turn into like a 2D stained glass window painting,
Right.
and you can go against the walls and you can use it to like break around different. There's a lot of puzzle mechanics based around that mechanic. There's a lot of puzzles based around that mechanic. So it takes that 2D formula and it switches it up enough. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying you would like it. I'm saying there's a better chance you would because it's not just the basic 2D top-down Zelda formula. It is that along with some interesting mechanics, just like how Phantom Hourglass was that with some interesting mechanics.
Yeah.
Echoes of Wisdom doesn't even, from my understanding, I haven't touched it, but like from all the things I saw, it doesn't even play like that because it's a lot more based around the different items that Zelda can copy and paste essentially, and you can use it. It becomes more of a puzzle game than it becomes more combat oriented, which you might end up enjoying. I don't know. I'm just trying to look at the games that take that top-down Zelda formula and kind of turn it in a different direction, and maybe you'd enjoy that more. Not saying you would, but maybe you would.
Yeah, the presentation is huge for me. It's also why I really liked Minish Cap. I never beat it, but I liked playing it, even though it was like the top-down formula. I'm sure I would like Echoes of Wisdom. I'm sure I would like, especially Parallax, after you saying it's feels like Tears of the Kingdom. I do want to play that. I do want to play Link Between Worlds, but it's just not. They're just not high on my. I have so many games on my list that I want to get to more that aren't even. I'm also not even like. I wouldn't say I'm like the biggest Zelda fan. Like, and that feels slightly like sacrilege, but
no,
there are certain entries that are in my absolute top 10, but every time a new Zelda game's come out, I'm not the guy to be like, new Zelda, gotta get it, like a lot of people are, and that's totally fair. That's just personal preference, because I think it's up to the presentation whether I'm going to enjoy it or not, because the presentation of, like I said, like Minish Cap or Phantom Hourglass was enough to get me through the fact that it was like the top-down kind of dungeon crawly types.
Oh, interesting. So I've had an age-old debate with people about like what's the most important aspect like of a video game, right?
Of any.
So to me, it's so like you can break down video games into generally like your audio visual presentation, your story, your soundtrack. I kind of differ a little bit from like it ties in with audio visual, but sometimes the game can have like a phenomenal soundtrack and shitty sound effects. They're tied, but they're like twin categories. They're like connected, but they're not. But they're also kind of different. And then obviously gameplay, right? And just doesn't function. That's kind of its own. That should be the standard, but like or that should be a bare bones. It's expected. For me, it's always been gameplay because
Same.
Because gameplay. It's a video game, and therefore the most important aspect of it that separates it from other artistic mediums is the fact that it is gameplay. And I had a friend who is much more into he like story trumps all for him. If he likes the story, he can suffer through shitty gameplay.
Yeah.
And I don't understand that because perfect example, I don't like Dark Souls.
Right.
Dark Souls, from what I understand, has some of the best world building and lore building, just period. But I don't give a shit because the gameplay is not.
You don't
fun
like playing
for me.
it. Yeah.
I don't enjoy playing it. So I can't. I've tried to stomach through that game a handful of times, and I can. Now, to be clear, I actually don't think the game has bad gameplay. I just don't like it. I think there's a lot more flaws in it. That anyway, I've had that rant 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Not going to rehash it. So. I don't know, and but the reason I bring that up is because you were describing as like how a good artistic merit can carry you through a game you might not otherwise enjoy. I thought that was interesting because I'm like, to me, if I don't like the gameplay, I don't care how pretty it looks, I'm not going to want to play it.
I would say that it can, but it's not number one. I think I'm actually right with you. I think it's gameplay, like particularly mechanics, like. Does it feel good and is it fun is paramount to me, because I struggled so hard through Mass Effect 1. Like I loved everything about that game except for the way that it played. And once I finally got through it, I was like, cool. And then I got to Mass Effect 2 where the mechanics were much better. Still not great. I still don't love playing Mass Effect 2 or 3, but the other things were enough to carry it. But if that one thing, if the gameplay is not there for me, then if it's boring, if it's like, you could tell me that Age of Empires has the greatest story you've ever heard of in a video game and it made you cry for 10 hours after you played it, I'll still be like, cool, I'll watch a video of it. I'm not going to sit there and play Age of Empires or like a sports game or a racing game, just something that like I'm not really into the act of physically playing, even if it's like it doesn't have to have that. Like I hated playing Mass Effect 1, but I stomached, or like you said, stomached through it to get to 2 and 3, which were much better. I think it's the most important, and if you don't have it, it's like a 90% chance that if I'm not interested in how it physically plays, I'm not going to play it. Like that's what I need. That's my number one is mechanics.
I getcha. Sorry, I think we're gonna have to call it. She started crying again.
Okay, I was wondering.
No, this time Courtney did actually go. She's home now, so she went in to see her.
Okay.
I'm hoping she's okay, but I think we're gonna have to call because it's already been about 2 hours anyway.
Yeah.
And yeah, she's just poor kid is gonna. It seems like it's gonna be a long night for us, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well,
so
no worries there. I always enjoy these talks.
This was a really nice one.
Yeah.
Side note, like I just in general, just to say out loud, I really, really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, I would love to continue talks like this. I know there's a lot that we don't align on, which is fascinating. Games. Yeah, it's fascinating just to see like how different people experience the same thing, and just your own personal tastes. I live for that stuff. That's why the experience point is a thing. So yeah, you take care of the little one and hopefully she poops.
I just hope she I thought we were good because she was out she was so when I came back and from the last time, she was out, passed out. I'm like, all right, we're good for the night, we're gonna be good. And all of a sudden she just started crying again. I think she might have had a bad dream, but I'll find out from Courtney. So
prune juice, yeah, ask her if she wants some prune juice.
She doesn't always like it now because she knows that's when we're trying to get her to poop. So we give her apple juice with Miralax, which should do it.
Yeah, you get some Miralax in there. There is no force that you can submit to yourself that will hold that back.
Yeah. And blueberries, yeah.
Blueberries.
Any dark berries, but
Yeah.
all right. Well, this was a wonderful conversation. Honestly, with all the stuff that we talked about at the top, I kind of needed this tonight.
Yeah, me too. It's nice to have something to escape into. Speaking of something I'm about to experience, we're going to watch the Return of the King Part 2 of the extended edition of Return of the King tonight. So we've been going through all the Middle Earth movies, and it's been nice to have that escape. So looking forward to continuing that trend and not thinking about this capitalist hellscape. Anyway, thanks for chatting with us. Thanks, Parallax Puddles. Thank you to my lovely lady, Polisa, for being in the chat. I love you guys. I'm so sorry that we don't agree on Zelda games, though, Parallax. I still love you, and I still hope you don't block me.
All right. Have a good night, y'all.
Take it easy. Take care. I'm going to sign off as well. So long. Farewell. Auf Wiedersehen. Goodbye. Take care of yourselves and those that you love, and go to effing therapy, motherfucker.